Hi everyone, Nicholas Buffett is here from sunny Cyprus and welcome to today's tutorial. And you can see this one's all about access. More importantly, it's about searchable forms, how we can create a form in Access which we can use to fill in the text boxes, the drop-down list boxes, the options to search our database, search our tables. It doesn't matter whether it's a relational database or a flat file database. Now, the process that I'm going to be following in this video tutorial is going to be, I'm going to give you a quick demo first. I'm going to then show you the mechanics so you get a good understanding of how this works. And then I'm going to demonstrate the regeneration of the form, which I demoed. Now, if you don't know much about Access and you want to learn a bit more, and this is a little bit too advanced, then you can look at my playlist, which is primarily focused on the ICT 0417 Cambridge examination. But that playlist is a complete playlist for very, very beginners all the way to advanced level, and that will give you all the information you need and the practical skills so that you can create your own database. Now, if you have some knowledge and you want to jump further ahead and just get to the nitty-gritty of generating this, make sure to use the timestamps in the description so you can jump to the areas of interest. So let's get started with the demo. Okay, so here's the search form which I've generated, and this is the one that we're going to be regenerating or close to this. And I'm using different types of inputs. For example, I've got a text box, I've got a drop-down list box. I've also got a field here, which is a text box, but it runs an operator like greater or equal to. And I've got a yes, no field here as well, an option box. And here I've got some buttons to make my life just so much easier when I want to reset the form or run my search. So let's start with a vacancy ID of, let's say, 60. It's going to look for all of the fields, or all of the records, sorry, in the vacancy ID field and find all the ones that contain the number 60. So if I do a quick search there, I've got 21 records. When in actual fact, if we have a look at this database or this table, it's actually got 453 records down here at the bottom. Now, let's continue with that. So if I then say all the ones that contain a vacancy ID of 60, but the level is advanced, and I do a search, I now have 5 records in my results. Fantastic. This looks really great. I can carry on with that. I can turn around and say I want all the ones where the wage is greater than 130, let's say. That gives me 1 result. Perfect. So I'm all the way down to 1. Now you can see all of my searches, or most of my text searches, are based on a contains, not an exact match. And I'll explain that in 1 second. If I get rid of that 130 from there and say all the day release is yes, I get 4 results. If I say the day release is no, I get 1 result. You can see here the day release here is no. I can reset my form, and I'll show you what I mean by a contains, not an exact match. So here we can see that the vacancy ID is actually made up of 2 letters, and then I've got 6 numbers. Now, if I want an exact match, would be if I copy that one there, and I had to write the whole vacancy ID to find the record, which I can do, that would give me 1 record because it's a primary key. But I can just search for things with a contains. For example, I want all the ones that contain a 04 in the vacancy ID. There you go. And all these vacancy IDs here have got that combination of text 04. Also, this drop-down list box, although I've got 3 options, I've got it enabled so I can type my own value. For example, if I wanted, let's say I've got something else which is not contained in that level, I just want to do a quick check, I can say do high, and I want to find all the ones where the level contains the word high. Let's see. There we go, I've got 2 here. If I reset my form and just make sure everything's clean, then I can start again from the beginning. Okay, so it's always good to click on reset to make sure everything has been reset before you do anything. If I click on no here and do a search, all of these ones are where the day release is no. Okay, so that's a fantastic way to search for records. Really easy. Again, resetting the form. Now, the other good thing about this method is if you do not include a particular field, for example, if I do, let's say vacancy ID 60, I can see I'm getting results for the level which are both for intermediate, advanced, and it's not fixed. It's going to ignore this one here because I haven't selected anything. Then it will ignore it. Okay, and that's fantastic. If I say, for example, find all the ones which are intermediate, it will ignore the vacancy ID because it's empty, the wage and the day release. Oh, let me just do that again. Intermediate, and click on search. I find all the ones which are intermediate. Okay, which is 153. 5 records. Great, so let's go have a look at the mechanics of how this works. So here I've got a small diagram here for you. Now on this side here, we have our table with our data. This is where we've got our table with, say, 455 records in this particular case. It might be a relational database where you've got two tables linked together. That's absolutely fine. And the way this works is we basically run a simple query. Now, normally when we run a query, we will set up our query, enter the fields or the columns which we want to filter or return in the results. And at the bottom in the criteria, we say, for example, find all the ones where the vacancy ID contains 60, or find all the ones where the level is advanced. We click run and it returns the results. But that means we have to write the values in manually every time in the query. What we're doing now, though, those parameters for the query, the criteria, here's the query. So we've got our table here. We run the query here. But for the parameters, instead of us typing them in, the query will get the parameters from our search form here. So whatever we type in these parameters here, that's where the criteria is going to come from. So in actual fact, the search form we create really doesn't do anything apart from provide the criteria for the query. And then when we click on this search button here, it will run this query. And when you run the query, you end up with these results. That's basically it. So the search form is just there for you to enter the criteria. It's the query which does all the work. All right, now that we understand how it works, now we can go and start creating our search form. Okay, first step, we're going to generate the form. We're not going to do all the bells and whistles on the form, like the formatting and making it look nice. We're just going to generate a very basic form initially, so it's functional, tested. Once everything works, then we can work with the formatting and making it look nice and pretty. So the first step is I'm going to go to create. I'm going to go to form. I want a blank form here. So here's my blank form. And now I want to go straight into design view so I can design this thing. So I'm going to click here, go to design view. Okay, so I've got a blank form here. First step is we're going to add the controls. Now I had 4 controls on there. The first one was a text box. So I'm going to go to form design. I'm going to click on text box, that one there. I'm just going to draw a rectangle roughly about here. Now I get 2 boxes. One's going to be my label. So this is going to be the one where I want to search for the vacancy ID. And here I'm just going to leave that as unbound. What does that mean? This basically means when I run my form, anything I type in here is not going to be saved anywhere. It's not linking that text box to any table field, and it's not going to go and add this data in any table. It's just a text box for me to type things in. So I'm not going to bind it to anything at all. The next, and you can see here, when I move one of these, it moves both of them. But if you click on the gray tab at the top here on one of these big thick gray tabs, you can move these individually. So I'm just going to move that over here for now. My next control was a drop-down list box. So that was a combo box, and that was where I had my level. So from here, here's my combo box. Now, when you click on this and you draw a rectangle here, you should get a wizard. Here's my wizard here. Now, some people have commented in other videos that I generated on creating forms. I'm just going to click cancel there, delete that. That their wizard does not pop up. If you don't get that wizard, the control wizard appearing when you add a control, just simply expand the tools here, and you've got here use control wizard. Make sure that's selected. So if that's not selected, when I do this now, it adds a control, but I don't get the wizard. So to make sure you get the wizard, simply click on expand your tools here, use control wizards, and now it will work. So I'm going to use this to enter my list. Now I can either have a list in another table. That's the best way of doing it, by the way. But I'm just going to enter the values in manually. So you could create a very simple table with all your values. It is the better way. And the reason it's a better way is that if you want to add new items to that list to appear, you just modify that table. But for now, I'm just going to type them in manually. So I'm going to type the values in manually, and I'm going to go here. The first one I'm going to put is going to be in, let's click in here. intermediate. The next value that they can choose from is advanced. I won't be surprised if I make spelling mistakes. Remember, I am dyslexic, but traineeship. I've actually got these written down on my other monitor so I don't make a mistake, but I still probably will make a mistake. So I'm just going to add the 3. I'm not going to put the one which is higher or anything else. And I could add something which doesn't exist. Let's say low. Maybe it's something that I might add later on. I'm going to click on next. And then it just wants what label would you like for your combo box. I'm just going to click on finish there. And now we're going to name all of these afterwards one by one. But if I click on this one, let's just get rid of the properties. If I double click on this, you will see the properties appear. And you can see I can always modify the items that I add in the row source entries there. But as I said, it's better to do it from the table. Right, the next one we're going to add is, again, just the text box. And this was the one which is the wage is greater than a particular value. That's just a text box. I'm just going to keep that label there. Wage greater equal. As you write these, and you can see that one's overlapping the other one, so I can actually take this grey box and just drag that over a bit. This one here I didn't name. This is going to be the level. And then the last one that I had was the options, the yes, no. So right here, this XYZ one here, this is my option group. I can click on that and just draw a rectangle for that as well. And now it's asking you, what would you like there to be for your options? So I want yes and no. Now, when I go to next, it says here, yes is the default choice. No, I don't want a default one. And this basically means when you open the form, it will not have a value. Very, very important. I don't want yes or no to be selected automatically because I want to be able to search my records while ignoring the day release. I don't want to have a yes or a no there. So if I just click on next, now the value it's going to supposedly pass over. So it says yes, no, but because it's an option, it's not really going to store the values yes and no. You can just leave that as 1 and 2. If you were to put yes and no, it would automatically change them to -1 and 0, which are the default values. But you can just leave that as it is and just click on finish. And there it is. And you can see this one is a little bit messy. So I'm just going to take this gray square there, drag that over, call that day release. So that just tells the person using this form what they're filling in. I'm going to stretch this one out a bit because I like these being next to each other. These are really fiddly to work with. And by the way, Access is not the best tool to be designing forms or anything like this. It's really, really quite messy. So it takes a bit of practice. Okay. Now, there's my form. It's a little bit messy. That's fine. I'm just going to draw over these to bring these down a bit. And let's bring that up to there. And then I'm just going to select all of these and just say, well, not that one. You see, I don't want to select these in here. So I'm going to click on that line there, hold the control button, select these items here and just say from here, arrange, align to the right. That's just going to make all those nicely aligned. I can now bring that one down to here where I want it. And I can just say align these to the left. And that's just a little bit of organization. All right, the next step I need to do is to give these boxes, let's just change the size of these as well. It just drives me crazy if I don't have them. So I just want equal, that's the spacing to the widest one, let's say. There we go. And then align to the left. Perfect. Okay, now they're lined up. All right, now then. To make my life easier when I'm going to be doing the query, I need to give these boxes names which I understand. So right now, if I click on this one here, go to the properties area here and go to all, I can see that the name of this is text 0. I don't know what text 0 is. So I'm just going to write this txt. You can write whatever you want, by the way, just have no spaces in the name. I use txt just to say that what's stored inside here is text and it is for the vacancy. So this just gives me a little bit more information with the name. Then I'm going to click on this one. This is also storing text. Go to all. Go to the name, and that's going to be txt underscore, and that's my level. Again, the name you use, it's up to you. Just make sure there are no spaces. And this one here is the wage greater or equal to, again, that's text, txt. Well, it's a number, but that's fine. We're using it in a text box. txp, t wage. And then this one here, I'm going to select the box outside, not the actual item, because I want the box. And the name, that's going to be an option. So I'm going to put opt underscore, and that's my day release. I'm using capital letters instead of spaces, so I can read that easier. Again, no spaces. Right, so if I close that now, if I save this form, file, oh, sorry, click on the save. I'm just going to call this form search instead of search form 1, because I've got another form there, and save that like that. If I close that now and open that again, there we go. I've got my drop down list box. I'm able to add things in here. I can't reset anything yet. I will do that later. I've got my yes, no option buttons, which will alternate. Okay, but initially it starts with nothing selected. And there you go. There is your search form. I'm not going to do anything else with this yet. Our next step now is to generate the query. So then we can link the query to our form to pull the criteria, make sure it all works. And then we can do all the other stuff by adding buttons, reset fields, and the rest of it. Okay, our next step is we're going to create a query. So we can close our form. I'm going to go to create query design. From here, we're going to make sure that we can add our tables. So if you don't have that properties area on the right, you can just simply right click in this area here, show table. Make sure you've got tables selected, and you can add the tables that you want. Now, if you've only got one table, that's one table. If you've got two and it's a relational database like mine, then that's absolutely fine. Now, the next step is at the bottom down here in the criteria area, we're going to add the fields that we want to appear as results, but we also want to have the fields that we're going to use that we're going to apply criteria to and may not be included in the results. So let's begin. So I want to be able to return things like vacancy ID, the vacancy, the level, the subject ref. I also want the subject name that's on this table, so I'm just going to add that in there as well. The closing date. Now, again, you can add as many of these as you want. It depends on what results you want to be returned. That's entirely up to you. So I'm just going to add these fields here. So I've added fields from both tables. Now, if I was to run this query right now like this, I get all my results, all 455 or 453 of them, because no criteria has been placed to filter the data. Now, if I wanted to filter the data, I would add my criteria here. But these ones here, as they stand, they work on an exact match. So I'll just give you a small demo here. So if I wanted to find, let's say, what should we look? Let's say all the ones which are intermediate. So that's in the level field. If I go to here and go to the level and put the criteria and I put the word intermediate in speech marks, it will add it automatically. Speech marks because I'm looking for the text intermediate. If I spelt this 100% correctly, then when I run this, it will only show me the ones which are intermediate. If I want to find, however, all the ones that are, let's say, a vacancy ID like we did before, which contains the number 60, I get no results. The reason why is because there is no vacancy ID, which is the number 60. The vacancy IDs are these ones here. I have to write the exact vacancy ID like this. So if I put the exact vacancy ID, that's going to return that one single record. So how do I do a search criteria which will find, let's say, whichever record in that field contains this, contains 60, contains CH, contains the word high instead of higher? Well, that is something I need to demonstrate to you here, because this is really important for you to understand afterwards when we start getting the criteria from the form. So I'm just going to drag this over. There we go. Okay, so here I've got a zoomed in part of my query. So at the bottom here, we can see, there we go, we can see here our part of our table, and up here we've got our query. Now, if I was to put, like we did here for the level, the word advanced, that will only return this record here. The reason why, there's only one which matches this text exactly. If I was to write the word like, speech marks advanced, again, it's only going to return that one because the word like just says find all the ones which are like this. It's actually an exact match. So how do we do the wildcard? Now, the wildcard is when we want to add other criteria. For example, I'll go with, let's go vacancy ID. So if I write for the vacancy ID, like, speech marks, when I'm looking for the text, and I write the value asterisk 2, close the speech marks, that means the asterisk is a wildcard. It could be anything you like. So this means that the vacancy ID can have anything at the beginning, but at the very end, it must contain the number 2. So that will return this one and this one because they've both got a 2 at the end. We don't care about what's in front of that 2. If I want to find all the ones, let's say, which begin with TT4, then that would look like this. I want it to begin with TT4, but I don't care what's after that. So I put asterisk and then close my speech marks. So that's going to return that one, 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 and that one, because they all have TT4 at the beginning. So that's how I find if I'm looking for something that begins with something. Now, if I want to find something that contains a string or text, then I need to write that like this. So if I was, let's say, on the vacancy this time, well, actually, let's just stay with the vacancy ID. If I want to find anywhere where it's asterisk, and I'm going to put 4, 4, asterisk. Now this means that I can have anything at the beginning, anything at the end, even 4, 4 at the beginning or 4, 4 at the end, because the asterisk means anything, but there has to be a 4, 4 somewhere in the middle. Beginning, middle, or end, it really doesn't matter because the asterisk can also be a 4, 4. That will return that one and that one because it's got 2 4s. Okay, now this is really important to understand because this thing here, which is in the middle of these asterisks, that is going to come from our form. Okay, so when we set up our query now in the criteria, what goes between these asterisks is going to be the vacancy ID, the wage, or whatever from our form. Okay, and that's how this becomes dynamic, and whenever you add something in the form, it changes what's inside here so you can run a new query. So let's go to the query and set this up now. Okay, so here we are back to our query, and now we're going to enter our criteria and we're going to pull the criteria parameters from our form. So I'm going to work with the vacancy ID first. So for the criteria section in this column, I want to do a like command like we did before, but instead of typing everything out, I'm going to right click in that cell, go to build, and this opens up your expression builder. Now from here, let's just open that a little bit more. From here, I can find everything I need, all the items from my database, from my tables, queries, forms, reports, and so on. I've also got my operators, and from here, if you look in logical and comparison, you've got the word like. Now you don't have to add them from here. You can afterwards just type them in space. And from the example I gave before, what I want to do, I want to link an asterisk to whatever I typed in the text box for vacancy ID in my form, an asterisk, so that I get a search which is a type of contains instead of exact match. Now asterisk is a text, so I need to put it in speech marks. I want to like that. And now I need to link that asterisk with whatever is inside my text box in my form for the vacancy ID. Now to do that, I need to link all the text together. The symbol we use to link things together is the ampersand, this and sign here. Now you can type it in or you can add it from there. So I want to link the asterisk with whatever's inside the vacancy ID text box. My vacancy ID text box is inside my form. So if I go to my tables here, here's my database. I'm going to go to my forms, all forms, and here is the new form that I made, form search 1. If I select that, I see all these options. Now remember we made some really decent names for our text boxes? Well, here it is here, txt vacancy. So if I double click on that, it will add it here. So what this is saying is, like, asterisk, link the asterisk to the text which is inside that text box, and then I want to link that to another asterisk. So if I've got the number 60 inside that text box, it will be like star, well, speech marks, star 60 star. So it'll be looking for the number 60 anywhere in that field. Click on OK, and that is there. Now, before I do anything else, I need to test this. And I always teach my students, when you do something, test it first. So here we go. I'm going to save my query. I'm going to call my query now, just the opposite of the other one, results search 1. Click OK. Now I can close this. I need to open my form because your form has to be open. And if I run my query now, I get everything, okay? Because there's no filter that's been done. If I add something to my vacancy ID like 60 and I open my query now, here it is, results search 1, it should return only the ones where the vacancy ID has got the number 60 included. So that works. Before I move on though, to make my life a little bit easier, because I'm going to be testing this quite a lot, I'm going to add a button on my form so I can just click to see the results. So I'm just going to quickly modify the design view of my form. From here, I'm going to click on the button, draw a rectangle, go to miscellaneous, I'm going to say run query, go to next. Here it shows you all the queries that you have. I want to open this one here, result search 1, go to next. And instead of a picture like this, I'm just going to put text, I'm going to say run query. I mean, that's fine. Finish. Now, if I go to normal view and I click on that, there you go. It's much easier. I can close that, change that to, let's say, 56. Run that. There we go. Perfect. It works. We'll do the other buttons later. So what we're going to do now is we're going to open our results, go to the design view, and we're going to add the next one. Now, the next one was on the level, and we used that drop-down list box. Remember? So we've got this drop-down list box here. So to do this, exactly the same as before, we're going to open up our expression builder for the level. So I'm going to right-click on that, build. I'm going to go here, I'm going to type like in my expression builder space, speech marks star. Now, if you don't want it to be a type or contain search and you want an exact match, then you don't need to put this. You can just add the record. I'll show you now. So, and I'm going to concatenate that, link it in other words, so Shift 7, with whatever's inside this search form, that one there, and I want that one to be the level, txt level, there it is. So if I just did this, like and only that, that's going to be an exact match, okay? So we'll put that back, and I want to concatenate that with speech mark star and close that. So if I click on OK and save this now, what are we going to do? We're going to test. So I can now close this and I'm going to try this. I want to find all the ones where the level is advanced. Run the query and we can see only advanced. Now I'm going to try both of them. So advanced and 56. Let's say contains 56. There we go. And oh, no, didn't that work? Let's try again. So because I don't have a clear form here, I'm just going to click on save. I'm going to open this again. So 56 and advanced. There we go. Okay, advanced, and it contains the number 56. So because I don't have a reset form, a reset button here, it's best to close the form and open it again until we add the reset button. And we'll see that in a short while. So we can close that now. All right, so I'm just going to right click on that and go to design view. We're going to do the next part. Now, the next two parts, we're going to do slightly differently. Now, we're going to do them differently because the day release and the wage. So if we open up our form, this one here, I want to add an operator. Now, when I add an operator in my query, I want to say greater than and then link it to something. So if I was to do this, for example, wage greater than, I don't know, let's say 200 and run that, it will only show me the ones where the wage, that one there, is actually greater than 200. Okay, we can see here that we need to concatenate the logical operator, which is the greater than, equal, whatever we're going to put, together with whatever value we put in our form. In this case, I typed it in manually 200. Now, there's two ways to do it. I'm going to show you the reason why I'm going to choose my preferred method first, well, second. So I'm going to show you the method that we've learned up until now. So the easy way to do this will be to right click here, build, and I'm just going to say here greater than or equal to, so that it also includes the value that I add. And from here, I'm going to go and add from my form, my searchable forms here, form search one, and I want the wage, txt wage, and there we go. So whatever I put in there, it's going to work. So if I click on OK, and now I save that, close this, and now I put a value of, let's say, 150. If I run my query, I probably need to close this, but anyway, there we go. It's only the ones which are greater than 150. So you can see here, everything I've got here is greater than 150. I might actually have one. There you go. That one is actually exactly 150. So that works. So where's the problem? The problem is this. If I now delete that value, so if I close my form and open that again, so there's nothing here. If I do a query run now, I get no results. And the reason is it's doing greater than blank. There are no blanks there. So I'm not getting any results. Now, that means I have to account for what happens if this is blank. What I want to happen if this text box here is blank, I want it to ignore that query, ignore that criteria of the query. So if I just go run the query, go to design view, and from here, I could do this here by adding at the end. So I'm just going to right click build. On the end of this, I'm going to say it's either this, okay, so greater or equal to whatever's inside forms, or anything where it is blank. So I'm going to say from here, go to my forms, wage is space null. Now this basically says it's either going to return a value from here, or if this is null and that's true, it just ignores it. So if I click on OK, now you can see it puts all of this in one line. That's fine, absolutely perfect. But when I save this, close this, now let's say I'm going to put 200, run the query, perfect, there we go, my wage, all the ones where it's greater than 200, close my query, and now I'm going to leave that as blank. When I run this now, it worked. It shows all of them. So it's basically ignoring it. So why is this not my preferred method? Well, here you go. When I run this, you can see it's automatically modified my query. It has taken that or statement which I had here at the end, the or here, and it's added it as an or statement on that line there. What's the problem? No problem. That's fine. But when you start adding more items with an or is null, it's going to add more of these lines here. So it's going to make it harder for me to manage. So I'm going to show you my preferred method of doing this. And you can see it's also put here is null forms. It's added this extra column and it's checking if null. So it's going to return all the results where this is true, whatever's inside, whatever you've done for the vacancy ID, whatever you've done for the level, and whatever you put for the wage ID. But it's also going to include all the results where this is true, whatever you've done for vacancy ID, what the level is, and it's going to ignore this one. This is null. Okay, so it will add both of those results together. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete that line there because I don't want that or statement there anymore. So I'm just going to cut that. And I'm also going to get rid of the criteria I've got under wage. I'm going to get rid of that because although it works, it's not my preferred method. And I'm also going to get rid of this extra column that is added here for forms, which it had the null parameter there as well. Okay, so we're back to where we were before we started this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to right click in the field box of a blank column and I'm going to choose build. I'm going to put exactly the same command as before, but instead of putting it in the criteria, I'm putting it in the field. And that way it's not going to break up my or statement into multiple criteria records. So we're going to do exactly the same as before. So what I want to do now is I'm going to turn around and say from here, from my queries, this one here, where the wage is greater or equal to. I'm going to go to my forms section now. There's my txt wage. So the wage from my query is greater to equal to this, or let's make that capital. This is going to change it anyway. Or where this is null. So basically, this part here means that if it is null, that criteria is going to be ignored. So you won't run it. Click OK. And here it is there. And the next thing that we need to do is down here in the criteria, we want to say that whatever we put up here is true. So this has to be true. One of these is going to be true. It's either going to have something in there and it's going to filter based on that, or it's null. One of the two. If it's null, then it will ignore it. And that's the only difference. So if we run this, let's save this. This should now work. So if I put, let's say for the wage greater than 200 again, run the query, there we go. So all of this is greater or equal to 200. Okay, perfect. That looks great. And then there's the 200 as well, so that's the equal. Now, if I close that and now I make that blank, it should ignore. Yes, it does. So you can see we get everything here, 453 records. And if we now check the design view, can you see it hasn't added any extra fields? That's basically it, guys. So the next one that we've got to do is this one here, the day release, yes or no. We're going to do that exactly the same way as we did the wage. So why use both methods? Well, these ones here that we did for vacancy and level, we don't have to do them like this. This is just for easy, quick criteria searches. We could have done them exactly the same as we did this one. Okay, so we will just add extra columns, which I don't want these to be displayed. So if I run this now, can you see it actually adds that extra one here? I don't want that one. That's saying all of these here are true. Okay, so I'm just going to click on that tick so it doesn't display. And you could just add the extra columns at the end, which are not displayed in the results, and do all of your queries exactly the same way. All right, so let's do the next one, the day release. So I'm going to do this one here, build. Here I'm going to say from my database, queries, that one there, the day release, and now I want to be doing a search. Okay, so it's either going to be a yes or a no, and it's entirely up to us how to do it. But I don't need the asterisks because I'm not looking for something which contains. It's either yes or no. Okay, so it can't be something between. So for that there, I'm just going to say day release like, I could use equals, space. Actually, let's do the like with a capital L. That's, so the syntax is correct. And I'm going to say it's like my forms and that's going to be my OPT day release. There it is. Remember those names. So it's going to be looking here whether it's a yes or a no, or if it's blank. Okay, so if it's not selected, it should ignore it. So I'm going to put here is null. It's exactly the same as before. Just remember to put here the true, because this expression has to be true for it to run. So either one or the other has to be true. Either there's a yes or no selected or nothing selected. Get rid of that because I don't want it in the results. And let's see if this works. Save, close that. So this, if I choose yes, there we go. So we should have, there we go, day release, all of them are yes. So that's perfect. If I choose no, run, all of these should now be no, perfect. And now if I get rid of both of them, so I'm just going to get rid of that, open it again, so neither of these are selected, run, no wage, no day release, I get my results, I get everything, I get 453 results. Perfect. That's it. So the final part of this is to jazz up our form a little bit, so I don't have to keep closing it and opening it. I'm just going to use macros to create a reset button so that all of my form resets back to its default state. And I can add a little bit of color as well. So let's do that now. Okay, our first step is we're going to go to design view for our form. We're going to add a button, only this time we're not going to program the button to do anything directly from the wizard. We're just going to draw a button. I'm just going to go to finish. In fact, I'm just going to click on cancel because I don't want this button to do anything. I'm going to double click on this button on the outline here so it opens the properties, and I can give it a name. So I'll actually change the caption to reset form. All right, so if I click here, there we go. It's a reset form button. I'm going to make the other one just as big. So I'm going to just right click on this button, go to build event. I'm going to choose code builder, and that's going to open up, click OK, that's going to open up Visual Basic. And you can see here it says private sub command 21 click. So if I just move this out the way, let's just make this a bit smaller so we can see both of these at the same time. Okay, so if I click on that button there, you can see it's actually called command 21. So what that is saying is, it's saying that when you click on the button called command 21, well, something's going to happen, okay? So the first one is, I'm going to click on this one here. Let's get its name. Its name is txt vacancy. That's the name we gave it. So I'm just going to copy that, go to my builder, and I'm going to paste that there. I'm going to say equals blank. That's it. And I'm going to do that for all of these. So the next one, I'm going to click on that so I get its name. And it's better that you copy paste this rather than type them out so you avoid making any spelling mistakes. Press enter, equals blank. And then the next one, that one there, txt wage, control C, equals blank. And then the last one, remember, we don't want to click on the yes and no, but we want to click on the container box here. That's where we gave the name. Copy that, put that there, and equals blank. Okay, we click on open that up. We make sure we save that. So there's the save button. I can close, and now I can test it. So if I click on normal view, if I type anything in here, choose anyone here, put something in here, choose a note and click reset form, I now have a form that resets. Let's test it. So I'm going to choose all the one which is traineeship and has the number 6 in there with a day release yes and a wage greater than 200. Oh, not greater, let's just put 200. Let's run that, see if it works. I don't have anything, so let's make it a bit easier for it. Mathematics intermediate. Oh, there we go. Perfect. And if I want to switch it up, reset the form, find all the ones which are no and advanced, we now have a workable form. So the final thing that you can do, guys, and if you want, you can stay with me and I'll just modify this a little bit. I'm just going to go to design view and you can add some color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the insert in my form design view. I'm just going to choose a rectangle. I'm going to draw a rectangle over that. From my format, I'm going to make the shape fill. I use a nice dark blue color there, but I want to send it to behind the text. So I'm going to right click on it, position, center back. Now I can select these using the control button, selecting all of these. I can give them the same fill color in the background. Let's say that one. Change the text to white, make it bold. I'm going to select these texts here as well. Make those white, make those bold. Click on the background area here, make the shape fill a darky gray color. And I can align these properly a little bit. So if I select these two, go to arrange, I can change the size so that they're equal horizontal. Let's undo that, that's the wrong one. So I want the size to widest, and then I can align them to the left. I can select both of these, drag them down. This is just creating what I had before. I'm going to put another rectangle over that. I'm going to make it a white background. Send that to back. So right click, position, center back. And I'm just going to put another, I'm just going to copy this rectangle, Control C, Control V, put that there, and just give it a title. It's always good to give things a nice title that makes sense. Okay, and then I can just go again from here, add a label, draw that label in there, input or search form. Okay, we can select that, click away and click on that, make that white, bold, make the right a bit bigger, make that a bit bigger, and just center align it. And voila, we have a form which we can reset. We can add different things in here, run our query, close it, modify, reset, and it will run perfectly. Such an easy way for you to be able to filter your data, find records really, really easily. I use this method. I manage at the school where I am. I manage over 4,000 devices, and when I had to find the device, its location, who it's signed off to, through their serial number or through the person's name or the room number, it's so easy to do. I just write the room number, the person's name, and I see all the information there directly. So Access is a fantastic database tool. And this is a fantastic way to make a searchable form, or a form to search your records. You know the drill now, don't you? If you like this video, you learned something new, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you again in the next video. From me, Nikos Parfidis in sunny Cyprus. Bye-bye.